Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
So good, so good, so good.
Just in and so good. Thousands of spring finds up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means thousands of fresh reasons to rack.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Vince, Calvin Klein, Rag & Bone?
Obsessed. Why do we rack? For the hottest deals.
Save on Madewell, Kate Spade New York, Sam Edelman, Joe's, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosby's Rugby Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, whether it's top 14, Pro Day, National, or in this case, obviously, the national team and the Six Nations as we look ahead, but also sprinkled sometimes with a little bit of town, cities, bars, food, restaurants, drinks, wine, everything that makes a trip to France and being in France so fantastic. It is Rob, it's a midweek episode, so I do the intro, and I've really strung that one out. But fear not, the man with brevity, clarity at all times, Richard Croney, is with me. Richard, how are you?
Good evening. Yeah, I'm all good. All good. Midway through the week, Six Nations is upon us. Always an exciting time of year. First January Six Nations fixture that I can remember.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I'm not convinced. Not convinced personally. Traditionalist. No, it's fun that it's arrived so quickly.
It's dates, mate. Dates have been mucked up. 2024 dates, 2024 and 2025. Stuff was just happening way too early. Something's happened to the calendar.
The calendar needs a review.
No, I think it's just the way the leap year's fallen or something like that. It just everything felt so weird. It meant that first weekend of a month was always too early, or I don't know. Like we've got here, because this is basic. I assume this the period of time since Christmas is the same or something, and therefore it just happens because the first weekend of February, and they've just chucked in a Friday night fixture. That's what screwed it. Yeah. So yes, it is the Six Nations. It feels like it always comes around pretty quick because we had a couple of Champions Cup games, and then we have one round of fixtures of the top 14, which half the players didn't play in, and then all of a sudden we're into international rugby, and we've kind of got to chuck together a team. A lot of people, probably off the basis of a little bit of recency bias because of those Champions Cup games, are making France the favourites for this year's Six Nations. What do you make of that?
I don't think it's without merit. I think I'd probably have Ireland edging slightly ahead purely on the home fixtures, and then having to travel to both Twickenham and Dublin obviously in particular. But it's hard to look past how well obviously the top two sides have been in Europe, how dominant they've been. They've got obviously their main man back who wasn't involved in the last Six Nations, and I do think I think it's probably a bit of a coin toss between the two kind of sides who've been leading for a little while now in France and Ireland. I do think, and I know we're going to get into it, that one of those sides that would maybe be looking to take France on at the top, particularly Ireland, if they'd seen this side that's gone out as strong as it is and with the quality and excitement within it, I do think they would maybe be thinking, there's a few areas at the very least we can target. But it makes for a really interesting first couple of rounds.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is the home fixtures. The Six Nations is still so based on what home fixtures you've got, and I actually just thought, well, what about the last when France were really, really, really good, in the lead up to the World Cup? They still got pasted in Dublin in 2023, and actually they got utterly destroyed last year. But I think that was in Marseille. But I think there was so many other factors at play there. They are, according to Sky Bet, the favourites at 13-8 for Six Nations winner. Ireland are 15-8. But they are both on 7-2 for a Grand Slam. So it kind of suggests that the winner of that game will get a Grand Slam. You know who my prediction was made back in early January for Six Nations winner?
I assume you went France, right?
No, I went for Scotland.
Oh, come on, then.
It's our year, mate. So yeah, he says wearing a France jumper.
In fairness, in terms of
the Tuipulotu injury is huge. It's absolutely huge. I think we've got the best. Scotland, we've got the best fly half in the world. They had probably the best 12 in the world. That can get you a long way.
Yeah, and they have got to go to the.
I'm riding back on that. Jordy Barrett's a better 12. Sorry, for people coming.
Damien Dialende might have something to say about that as well.
Donkey, mate.
Yeah, Scotland. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure they'll flat to deceive in one game, and it might be a what could have been again. I don't know. I think Scotland team.
For both France and Scotland, they do have the away game of Twickenham, but now that fixture holds very little fear for both sides after the last couple of years.
Scotland
will
game
come
like
on to the
8 Calcutta Cups in a row or something now, aren't they?
It's like unbeaten in 6 or something.
Wild.
No, they lost in 2020 in the Storm. But we'll come on to a recent France game at Twickenham that isn't the 50 points to whatever hammering, but we'll come on to that later. Can you remember who your winners and losers were? So where are France at? Where are you mentioned that there's perhaps a little bit of they're not quite as strong as they could be, but coming out of the autumn, we were pretty positive about them, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that I can't remember exactly who my winners and losers were. Bar Ramos had a brilliant autumn, and Boudon, I think, cemented his place in the starting back row, which is obviously carried through into this first selection as well. I think they're in of course they're in a good place. Like they haven't lost a game for a little while. They had a good autumn, albeit they scraped past New Zealand at home in a bit of a classic. They were pretty good against Argentina, weren't they? Without being electrifying. Although there was a period, I think, in maybe the first half in that game where they were very good. I think the thing for me, and it's almost a bit of a two sides of the coin with this France side at the moment, is that I feel for all the quality, like the depth they have, the sheer number of players who are going extraordinary guns at club level, they should have been far more dominant over the last 18 months than they have been. I mean, we're looking at a side that less than a year ago probably should have lost to Italy at home, were it not for some wobbly kicking tees, flat to deceive a little bit in a couple of other games. But what I quite like is that through some injuries and a few circumstances, that there are some new faces who, I don't know, maybe that's what this team's needed. I think Galtier has been incredibly loyal over the years to certain guys in certain positions, and not without merit, but perhaps having his arm twisted a little bit by circumstance and having to bring in a few new faces might be what this team needs to crack on to a new level, because I don't think they've reached the heights that any of us would have expected them to, would be my summation, given how extraordinary some of their club sides have been.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think the point about the new faces is an interesting one. There are no new, completely fresh faces, although there are a lot of players with single numbers of caps we'll come on to. You mentioned his hand has been forced. I guess the headline news in this starting lineup, which we should probably read through, it is Jean-Baptiste Gros, Piatto Malvaca, Weenie Antonio, Alexander Roumat and Manny Miafu in the second row, a back row of Francois Cross, Paul Boudon and Greg Aldrit. Halfbacks are Antoine Dupont, Tony D and Roman Enterbach. Then your centres are Yoram Moafana and Pierre-Louis Barassi, with wingers Louis Bielbiaré and Teo Atisogbe, with Thomas Ramos at fullback. You mentioned that they've had their hand forced. The names that are missing through injury are pretty big names. They are missing Flamont, who was, is a long-standing kind of stalwart of this side, but also had a quite sensational game against Leicester a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Charles Olivon, who was back to his best, which is quite a high level after a pretty tough time with injuries. He was showing real physicality and pace. Again, we were saying I think he was my third winner of the Autumn Nation series.
He was great, wasn't he?
Finding that form. 2 big losses. Their arguably first choice centre pairing of Jonathan Donty and Gail Ficku. They're both injured, and soon to be, no doubt, record try scorer Damian Penaud. I guess of those, I would say Flamont and Penaud are the least replaceable.
Yeah.
I think Olivon, they've just got so many options of that ilk in the back row. They're fine. And you know my thoughts on Gail Ficku and Donty. There isn't a like-for-like replacement. They just have to kind of slightly change their style if they don't have Donty, but they've had to kind of do that a few times over the years because he's not got a great record with concussion.
No,
as will happen if you shove your head in the mixer quite a lot.
And I think both of those, because their peak and when they click and when they've been at their best, Donty and Ficku have become almost undroppable at points when actually form has wavered a lot more than you'd hope in the last probably 18 months or maybe last year, actually, because they were both going pretty well before that. Yeah, the centres is the one for me that I think, look, don't get wrong, there's so much quality in that 15. And I think looking ahead to Wales, who are obviously in like a bit of a pickle at the moment, aren't they? They're really struggling for anything resembling a like form at the moment. So as much as I would love this to be like a proper tussle, I mean, you never know, it could be, but I think they'll have too much regardless by some way. But I think the centres is really interesting because you've got Yoram Moefana, who's a fine player, but has undoubtedly not really translated that into anything overly impactful on the international stage, certainly in the big games. And then you've got Barassi, who has been fantastic in the last couple of months for Toulouse and is probably the form centre in the league, bar your Mangalas and a few guys like that who obviously aren't selectable for France. But I think it's an area that is on one hand incredibly exciting to see how that maybe someone like Barassi outside Moefana frees him up from having Ficku as that sort of kind of leader, and maybe that shifts someone like Moefana. But then the other side of that is, say, if you're an Ireland or whatever, you'd be thinking, actually, outside of that core spine in the backs, there's some fallibilities there, and there's a bit of callowness that we can get after.
So I should say on this, and you're very nearly falling into it, Richard, we are going to do a bingo card of cliches or lazy commentary about France that you always hear in the Six Nations. And I have put down on the list as an option, France will miss the experience of Donty and Ficku in the centres, which you've kind of gone in a roundabout way.
Thing is, because they haven't been at their best, yes, but it's targetable.
I would refer you back to your own point of Gaultier has at times been overly loyal, and they are the 2 prime examples, because when they're not good, they really do look quite poor, I think. But obviously when they click, they are, they were the best centre pairing in the world when France were the best team in the world a few years back.
Oh, I for one will be missing Gail Ficku's double miss passes that you always fail to spot.
I would say generally there are some new faces, but they are very much, it's to that loyalty point as well. They feel like very much next cab off the rank. Moefana has been the bridesmaid for those 2, both because he can play 12 and 13. He, even like 3 years ago, he was probably playing on the wing as a fill-in just because they like him. Boudon has been the kind of next, the next heir to the throne behind that triumvirate of Cross, Aldrit and Olivon, or even add a 4th one in there as launch. Atisogbe, they've lined up for a while. I think the man that can feel a little bit unlucky, and this is not Poe bias, I think, because he has been the next cab off the rank for quite a while, is Emilian Gaeton. and has kind of been usurped by a bloke playing some brilliant rugby in a truly sensational team, whereas Guyton is playing in a team. I mean, he's always played in a team that's been struggling down the bottom of the league. But I find that really curious, the Barassi pick over Guyton, because I think Barassi's kind of 25, 26. He's kind of capped a few years ago and then not really been, he's always been the kind of fourth choice at Toulouse, really.
Yeah, I think it in part shows just how good he has been in the last 3 months in particular. I've obviously had a look at him before, and maybe he wasn't quite there. I don't see it as too controversial. Like, I don't know, I mean, how old's Guyton? He's still really young, right? Like
21.
genuinely young. So
yeah,
and he's obviously on the bench in this one. Maybe there's like a little bit of how much big game experience, and is there a bit of a kind of inherent trust issue? Is it a slightly safer bet to go with your sort of Toulouse spine? We've seen different scenario, but we saw kind of Ramos picked over Jalibert in the autumn.
You've got your Poe outside channel link up, mate. Think of the brilliance there.
Yeah, but you're missing, if you had Joe Simmons to glue it all together, you'd be absolutely fine. Joseph Simons.
That brings us
maybe we'll see that in a few years. Who knows?
That brings us on to the next kind of big headline, which I don't know how many people are focusing on it, but it is a bit of a headline. Is the return of DupontaMack. I think I saw it as explained as a little portmanteau since, I think, the Six Nations 2023, so Dupont is named as captain, and I've got a little quiz for you on that, Richard. But also Entrées returns. How do you feel about that? I mean, you mentioned the Toulouse spine. I think that will always play into Romain Entrées' hands, and I personally still think that Ramos is the man that links the best with Dupont, and actually Malvaca is possibly the one that links best with Dupont. But Entrées, he sits back and then he waits for the opening or waits for the time to go, and he is very, very good at stepping in, whether it's to make a big kick or to make a break or to make a long pass, stepping in at the right moment when he spots the space. But other than that, he's happy for Dupont to do as much as he wants and for him to be peripheral. Whereas I feel like with Ramos, he takes a little bit more control. Perhaps.
Yeah.
So will we go back to the Tony D show? Is that what we're about to get? Are we about to go back to peak Dupont? Because he was below his best in the autumn.
Yeah, he was a little
because
bit.
He was 8 out of 10 rather than 15.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's been clear for ages that any chance to get Romain Entrées in the team, Gaultier does it. He clearly trusts that combination miles ahead of anything else. And you can see why, particularly on club form, chemistry, whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's particularly controversial. I do think that, I don't know, he's suffered so much with injuries, and I don't think Entrées has looked as sharp as he did a couple of years ago for quite some time. No. And you can getting away with it's a bit unfair because he's better than that, but you can kind of get away with it when you've got the explosiveness and other options around you, particularly with Dupont at 9.
And Ramos as a second playmaker who has the pace.
Yeah, and has the pace and has the ability to genuinely play in that role too.
I thought Romain Entrées, I've not actually seen loads of Toulouse since he came back. The one game that he did play very, very well in was the Sharks game away. His kicking in that, finding territory and finding grass and 50-22s and stuff like that. Toulouse were brilliant at that.
It's one of those sort of slight cliches, isn't it? But like the Gaultier's teams tend to kick a little bit more than you'd maybe see on the surface because you only ever remember the flair stuff. So having someone who's going to put them in the right places it makes total sense to me. I do just
with Barrett.
I think you can.
Injured now, I think so.
I also think that I love Mathieu Jalibert, and I would have loved to see a scenario where they can get it to work with Dupont, because I think his ceiling is arguably the highest of pretty much any 10 going, along with like someone like Finn Russell. I think there's always, does he? I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen this Six Nations unless something untoward takes place.
Well, you mentioned there his combination with Dupont, and Antoine Dupont has been named captain. I've got 3 questions for you.
Okay.
About France captains in the Six Nations. Question number 1. In the Six Nations era, how many different individuals has been named the captain of France for the tournament? How many different captains have they had?
I reckon there are loads. They do dish
so
it
I think
out a
we're
bit.
on we must be on the 26th year.
2000.
2000 it started.
I reckon
including
one a season plus 26.
No, as in at the start of the Six Nations, they've gone, here is our captain for the
What individual games?
No, not individual games. Individual tournaments.
That's I don't know. Half that then. I reckon they're averaging different captain at the start of the tournament every 2 tournaments. 13.
Not bad. 10.
10. Do we know how many in different games when people have
No.
been mutinies? See, I reckon it's 26.
Can you name those 10 individuals that were named captain at the start of the tournament?
No, because we're going to be here forever. Dupont, Palouse.
Yeah.
Gaultier.
Yeah.
Rougerie.
No.
Mugged.
Toulouse legend. Amazing games against New Zealand. Back row.
Thierry Dusatoir.
Yeah.
Elissalde, Yashvili.
No.
Neither. Okay.
You've got 2 back rowers that we've mentioned already on this podcast.
Greg Aldrit.
Yeah.
And no.
He was captain before Dupont.
Who am I? I'm missing. Who was captain in the last Six Nations? Aldrit,
yeah. But captain before Dupont first made captain. There's a reason why Dupont got captain, because this guy got injured.
Okay, I don't know, Rob. Tell me. Charles Olivon, of course. He probably had a few as well, didn't he? Yeah,
do you want to hit? You've got 2 hookers. 2 hookers and 2 second rowers.
Ibanez.
Yeah.
And Sarzewski.
No.
William Servat.
No. Montpellier.
Guillaume Girardeau.
Yeah, and then you got 2 second rows, one of which is the pointless answer.
2 second rows. Era, roughly?
Late noughties and mid 10s. The one from the mid 10s, we have seen him on a touchline, and he's famous for diving.
Pascal Pape.
Yes.
And I'm going to go, and the other one is late noughties and niche. You're saying?
Yeah.
Had you heard of said individual?
Yes, I had. Yeah.
2009, 2008.
Yeah, those are the 2 years.
Oh, really?
2 years, yeah.
God, I'm going to need a countdown here.
Okay, I'm going to put you out your misery.
Go on.
Lionel Nallet.
Lionel Nallet. Blimey, that's a name I've not heard probably since 2009.
Yeah. Right, so here you go.
That was hard work, that.
So the final, it's tough, that. Final 10. Dupont, Aldrit, Olivon, Girardeau, Dusatoir, Pape, Nallet, Ibanez, Palouse, Gaultier. Third and final question. Who was captain for the most tournaments out of that 10?
I reckon Ibanez.
Was joint least. He was only captain in 2007. So he was captain of the World Cup in 2007 and 1999 somehow, but only captain for 1 Six Nations.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Don't know, who was it?
Fabien Palouse with 5.
5.
Dusatoir and Girardeau both had 4. How did Girardeau get 4 Six Nations?
Girardeau was class.
Yeah, but that was a poor.
That was a bit of a gammy team, wasn't it?
2016 to 2019, yeah.
Decent bit of player turnover then. Hard work, that, Rob.
Well done, Richard.
When you said there are 3 questions, I didn't realise one of them had 10 parts to it.
Talking of parts, no, I'm not going to shoehorn that in. I guess the other selection is the 6-2 split. That's the big selection call. What do you think of the 6-2 split, the makeup of those individuals on the bench with the balance and that pack, and why have they done it?
Well, I think they favoured it for quite a while now, haven't they?
Yeah.
So
Do you know why they favoured it?
What? Go on. You
'Cause-
look like you've got a theory.
Because Fabien Galtier hates Mathieu Jalibert.
Okay, that's
so
certainly that's one
can't-
theory for it.
he
Does everyone
can't-
hate Mathieu Jalibert? Is that why Steve Borthwick's gone with a 6-2 split as well, just to back up Galtier?
I can't remember the bench for England, but he must hate someone.
Fair enough. Yeah, I for a long time was completely again. I still am always a bit funny about a 6-2 split, but in the position that France are in, where they can find a genuine kind of half back slot with Ramos, I think it frees it up quite nicely. I'm not convinced. I don't know. It does. I think the bench does look a little bit iffy. Not just in terms of inexperience, and I think that would be an area against. Yeah, you would assume Wales are probably the weakest side going in, certainly form-wise going into the tournament. So I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. But I think against some other sides that could be problematic. There's some, it's great to see Gaetan. I really rate Garek. Pretty cool Cyril Bay off the bench. Is a rather nice option to have alongside Marshall.
He's the kind of name
Colombe.
It kind of sticks out there, doesn't he? Because you think if you swap him and Gross, you've kind of got the other way round, haven't you?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of got how it feels for all the other positions of like
agreed.
The experienced guy starting and then the guy coming through off the bench. Yeah, I think with 6-2 splits, like I always look and think, can they cover every position? And they can, because as you say, Ramos can slot in at 10, Bielbarré can play 15, arguably Atisogbe could play 15, Gaetan could play wing, Barassi can move into 12. You could even shove into, if you really need to shove it around, you could chuck Entrées to 12. Or the rumours of Dupont has been training at 13.
Yeah, something like that. Something along those lines.
That'd be amazing. I find the bench a bit weird, just because I think you've got a lot of the same player. It feels like. I think the 6-2
lacks a bit of punch.
Yeah, the 6-2 works when you've got a Makalu, who is a complete, freak
who filled that 21 role for quite a while, didn't he?
Yeah, who can genuinely fulfill the hybrid role. Maybe if you had like a Ben Earl, someone like that, or a Quacker Smith even.
Yeah.
Or you have to have someone genuinely a point of difference, like England have gone with Tom Willis. Historically, they've gone with Alex Dombrandt, who is just a big lump and a specialist number 8.
Yeah.
And we've kind of said coming out the autumn that we thought they could do with a Gazzotti or a Nucci, or he's injured at the moment, Castro Ferreira, a young buck who's coming in hard, carrying aggressively. They don't have that. They've kind of, Boudon is coming into that role as the kind of just angry young man. Aldrit is approaching his best, but they don't have anyone off the bench doing that. Jegu is a brilliant athlete and he's brilliant around the park. He's not necessarily a off the bench game changer, I don't think. He's a 80-minute man doing everything at all times. Similarly, Orodu is a brilliant line out forward who is going to go for ages and do shitloads around the park. Guillard is a big lump, but he's not Talfa Fanua big. Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost like you've got a like 3 stages of evolution, Jegu to Orodu to Guillard in terms of slowly bulking up. But there's not. It feels strange. It doesn't quite look right.
I do
because
wonder
you've also got Rumat at second row.
Yeah,
so you've already got a lighter weight option in the second row. I know.
So I don't think he's ever
Miafu
started
is enormous,
there.
but
I don't think he's ever started there before either, from what I could see earlier. Yeah, like I do genuinely wonder if this was Ireland coming to town, whether they would opt for something a bit more heavyweight. I don't know what the view is on Wales. Halangahu.
You go back to Talfa
Fanua. I think any one of I'd rather see any one of the other back rows we've spoken about, or maybe I know Matty is maybe a little bit less obviously explosive, but I think he offers so much. Yeah, I'm a little bit. I don't know. It's a little bit underwhelming. I do like Guillard. I think he's unlucky not to be starting with Rumat in his place. I thought he was very good off the bench in the autumn, actually.
Yeah, and he was really good on the tour last summer, and he's good. He's been good at Lyon when they were good, he was playing, and then he got injured and they stopped playing quite so well.
Looks great. A camel overcoat as well, as
Yeah.
we saw a few weeks ago in the
Amazing
stands.
glasses. We should say we did our piece on Jegu, Oradu, whether they should be in the squad. We did that 2 episodes ago, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Neither of us thought that they should have been in the match day 25 on a merit basis once you've kind of cleared the moral legal hurdles. Oradu is young, but that's probably an area they do lack a little bit of depth, his second row. I think him and Guillard are the kind of next two. Jegu, I just think they've got so many other options that they, as we said, that are more dynamic in Gazzotti or Nucci, who are big angry carriers.
Yeah.
I guess that brings us on to players making their Six Nations debut that we want to kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive into. Amazingly, I thought this was Jean-Baptiste Gross' Six Nations debut. He made his Six Nations debut in February 2020 at the age of 20.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Tough
so that was,
to
be fair, that was the year that Gautier came in and he kind of brought in a load of young blood with Olivon as captain. I think he was on the bench for that game and Bamba was the other prop.
Okay, that sounds about right.
So he must have come straight out of the under-20s into that. But the players making their Six Nations debut, Pierre-Louis Barassi, who we've spoken about in great detail. One sentence on Pierre-Louis Barassi in summary, Rich?
Oh, he's just been magnificent in the last 3 months. He's been central to everything Toulouse been doing really well. Lovely runner at 13, powerful enough, and he's bullied his way past some really, really good players. He's come from basically the back of the pack in the Toulouse centres to being like the main man, which is no mean feat. So he's thoroughly deserving of his opportunity. Yeah,
I would say runs hard and enthusiastically from anywhere and everywhere at all times. He just loves to run and loves to bang. He played in the 2019 World Cup.
Oh, nice. Didn't know that.
So he's only got 3 caps, and he played in the COVID Cup final, the game you were at, actually.
Yeah.
He drew into extra time. So he's had caps, but a long time ago. He's only 26. The other player, or the next starter that is making his Six Nations debut is one of our favourites, one of my favourites, probably my favourite France player, Théo Atisogbe. We are the founders of the Atisogbe's, the Théo Atisogbe fan club.
Official fan club.
And do you know where he was born, Richard?
Yes, I do actually. It was Périgueux.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like we paid a homage to Théo Atisogbe last weekend. I can see why he moved slightly further south if it's wet like that more often. He was also the revelation for the top 14 last year. So he played 24 out of the 26 games for Po. He was the 3rd highest in terms of minutes played in the league. Second was Gaetan, who's on the bench. But he was integral to Po. He has racked up some serious game time for a 20-year-old. He is brilliant. Go back and listen to our podcast interview with Steve Cummins back in the summer, where we asked him about his former Po teammate, and he said he's got everything. Who would you liken Théo Atisogbe to, Rich? I think the closest I got was Anthony Watson, but I feel like that's actually underselling Atisogbe somehow. Some of the other skills within his game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because he's really slight, isn't he? Atisogbe, incredibly slippery, brilliant step,
big boot.
I'm trying to think of those sort of lithe wingers that, I don't know, like back in the day, like a James Simpson Daniel or something like that. But he is, even for a slim winger, he's tiny, isn't he? But he punches above his weight. Yeah, he's his own man.
Yeah,
he's his own man. As you say, remarkable the number of games he played, particularly last year, at that age, in that position, at that size. Like it's no mean feat, stepping in at 15 quite a lot. Yeah, I think the interview with Steve Cummins, he was talking about, maybe talking to Dan Robson about him and just saying like, this bloke literally has it all. Like it's all there. Yeah, be fascinating to see how he goes. I kind of like to see Pinot, obviously, but be interesting to see how he'd maybe go against one of the bigger sides or more formed sides at the moment too.
Yeah, I think last year Po were on TV a lot more, and it got to stage was like, yes, he's playing. I'm excited because I get to watch him play. It's that sort of level of player. So the other players making their Six Nations debut, moving on to the bench, Po teammate of Teo Atogbe, Hugo Oredu. Style of play, he's lightweight. He's a very good all-round technical player, good engine. He will be a very good player. He's still very young. He's 20, I think, still, or 21 maybe. I was trying to think of a like for like. The closest I kind of got was Katupo Vai type player, of just a really good line out athlete. Technician, yeah, but without the bulk of, say, a Johnny Gray or a James Ryan or someone like that.
Hard, isn't it? You don't usually get many sort of 20-year-old locks coming into the international game.
No, and he's also not as physical as, well, he's not got the all-round game, of Flamont. So he's obviously in there as the kind of like for lighter weight, loose head second row, whatever you want to call it. But he's not got the dynamic ball carrying, offloading game yet, anyway. Jegu, who will be forever tied to Hugo Oredu for pretty unsavory reasons. He was very, very good when he burst on the scene last year. That was a well-earned cap that he got in the summer tour. So both him and Oredu have one cap, which was that first game in the Argentina tour. He has been in very, very good form since he came back, I think. He's really got a great engine, just a real pest, I'd say. Like one of those players that just in your face the whole game. Brilliant athlete as well. Kind of a bit like Rumat, I'd say. Rumat before we saw the big ball carrying versions of Rumat that we got at the back end of last season. That kind of very agile, in your face athlete. I guess I keep using the word athlete, but these guys are just brilliant around the park, a lot of them.
Yeah, I think he's I'd say we sort of discussed a fair bit, like the ins and outs of whether we think they should be there. I think notwithstanding that, one, I as we said earlier, I do think there are better options, but I would say that he has certainly looked more comfortable at that slightly higher level at the sharp end of both the top 14 and to an extent the Champions Cup as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit just in terms of, if we're talking about kind of moving towards international quality, I'm not surprised they're having a look. Oredu, I do find a little bit strange. I think he's a little way off, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, actually, because Jegu will have played more of those top end barrage or Champions Cup knockout games than Nucci, Gazzotti. Then the final Six Nations debutant, who now has 7 caps, is Emilian Gaeton, Croydon's finest. Born in Croydon. I'm sure that won't be the first time you hear this Six Nations. Another Po player who has played a hell of a lot for Po. As an 18-year-old, he was the highest try scorer for Po in a year that they finished 12th or even 13th, I think. Highest try scorer in the top 14 that year, which is quite something. I wonder when the last time Po had 3 players in a France scored. I reckon you're going back to Aaron Aldicky, kind of early noughties.
It's going to be a while, isn't it?
But he is a brilliant all-round player. I've said in the past the kind of style of player he would be is kind of he is that Conrad Smith-esque player of the kind of lithe, wiry but freakishly strong, scrags people in tackles, knows how to get himself into the right place to score tries. Mentioned his try scoring record. He is that sort of player. I'm trying to think of Gary Ringrose maybe is the kind of similar-ish sort of maybe he's a bit more physical, but
sort of player he's always described a bit as kind of slightly old beyond his years, no obvious weaknesses. I do wonder if that is, in a strange way, you mentioned how he's sort of been usurped a little bit in that French team with Barassi going in. Maybe that's and he's still so young, he can build on it, but maybe that's the thing that counts against him. What is the real highlight super strength at the moment that puts him into a starting 15? Maybe that's not quite there, but he's he's a fine player, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think I'd love to see him, particularly now they've clearly decided right now Deporter maybe not the one. I would have liked to have seen him get a go.
Don't think Deporter's quite shown as much pace as a Gaeton or
he was good when he came in.
Dynamism.
Six Nations a bit last year, but again, he's young, isn't he? So
yeah,
he'll be there and thereabouts.
So I feel like we've done this squad in a bit of depth. I wonder how much it will change over that. I don't think we will see too many new faces. We may see one of those dynamic back rows towards the end of the tournament. I think we're more likely to see players coming back in than anyone brand new coming in.
Agreed.
Obviously, there's some class players not even anywhere near the squad, like Luku, Saran, Quiyu, and probably about 3 or 4 other scrum halves. I guess looking ahead to the game this weekend, we've mentioned that Wales aren't at their best or in a bit of a tight spot at the moment. We were actually pushing for a French-based player to be playing for Wales, Sam Davis, who's been one of the best players in Pro D2 for the last 2 seasons, I'd say now, for a side that is quite comfortably top of Pro D2 this season and was quite close to getting up last year. Although Ospreys did beat Po at Stade de Hameau in the Challenge Cup, so maybe Ospreys players are actually quite good.
It's a sign. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I'm hoping that, which goes against all of my instincts as an English rugby fan, but I'm hoping that Wales kind of produce something, because France-Wales Friday night, only you have to go back a few years ago, and that is just like a proper mouth-watering prospect, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, whereas this, bar, obviously it's a special game, it's the first game of the Six Nations, but doesn't quite have that fever pitch around it because of the predicament that Wales find themselves in. But look, they've got Big Daft Jenkins. He's only got 1 year left down at Exeter Uni. He's got to make the most of his time on St Luke's. I think he's doing sports science. Yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll have a little trick up the sleeve, a la all those years ago, Conor O'Shea in Italy at Twickenham, when they were going to get stuffed, and they just he just decided to do something completely rogue. I don't know, but it would be nice if it was competitive.
Do you see it being genuinely uncompetitive? Do you see it being a 50?
Yeah, I certainly think it should be. You look at not that France are at totally full click, but they've probably got near enough their most important players in their most important positions, and that should be enough given the sort of flux that I think Wales find themselves in. Yeah,
I was just looking at the odds then, and I thought, God, that's weirdly tight. 10-11 versus 10-11, and then I realised that was with France with a -26 handicap. The match result, the odds on Sky Bet, France are 66 to 1 on to win.
That's pretty.
That is outrageous in a 2-horse race.
Probably worth a couple of quid on Wales. The old Ashes 500 to 1.
Yeah.
I
mean,
a bit more to it.
France should have pasted them last year, and they didn't really. So I think we might see a 20-point margin, but I think there's too many changes in this France side, as we've referenced, for it to really, really click and for them to put 50 on them. Well, to win by 50. They're not going to. I don't see a Toulouse versus Leicester coming.
No, not at all.
I see a Bordeaux versus Leicester where, it's the plucky underdog kind of makes them sweat for 50 minutes, and then there's a second half blitz, which makes it pretty comfortable.
We'll see, won't we? Who knows? We could be back here on next Monday discussing Wales's most famous win of the modern age. Gaultier gone. Funny old game.
Well, either way, France won't be celebrating with any drinks because that's now banned, isn't it?
Yeah. Quite
right too.
All right.
Any other comments on the Six Nations there, Mitch?
No, just looking forward to it. Love it every time of year. Gets you through those harsh winter months. Maybe that's why they've moved it forward into January to shorten the pain of January by 3 hours or whatever it is on French time.
Quick, yes or no? Will Antoine Dupont be player of the tournament?
Oh, no.
Who will it be? A France player?
No. I still think Ireland might shave that game, and it will therefore be Caelan Doris.
Yeah, I was thinking almost exactly the same thing. Will Louis Bielbarré be the top try scorer in a tournament?
Yes.
I think I'm going to.
If he stays fit, yes.
Yeah.
Particularly with this new tactic that Bordeaux have found, which is basically just lump it long and let him chase.
Yeah, that could be tough.
Duhan van der Merwe, is he injured as well? Who's at the moment? Is he?
I don't think so.
No, maybe I've misread
Darcy Graham, cousin Darcy.
Cousin Darcy.
But yeah, a few fullbacks who might be slightly worried about leaving a bit of space in the backfield for when they play France. Well, we know that Théa Sogbe is going to score 5 tries on Friday night. So we look forward to that. We look forward to reporting back on it next Monday. Well, we'll record next week, early next week. Look out for our Six Nations French commentary bingo / drinking game / whatever you want to do with it. But help us out on that. If you spot them, get in touch. Get in touch with us generally. You can DM us. We are at Rosbeast Rugby on every social media outlet, I think. Blue Sky, X, Instagram, Threads, YouTube. Have I missed one? TikTok. Everywhere. And get in touch. Please do get in touch. For now, I've been Rob. I was about to say I've been Richard. That has been Rob. That's what you normally say. I've been Rob. That has been Richard. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
Oh, O'Reilly Auto Parts.